In this video, we're going to use Python code to use OpenAI's new API to generate Dall-E images and then send them to ourselves using email. Let's dive in. So diving into our fleet builder here, we're just going to jump straight into using a Python code vessel. So this will allow us to run any Python script that we want to run. So I'm going to click that. That's going to pop up the vessel for us here. I'm going to name this vessel download photos from Dall-E. In our file to run, we'll just do download photos.py. And again, it gives us the opportunity here to write the code inside of Shipyard, upload a file, or connect it to GitHub using Git to grab Python scripts from there. We're just going to write this one directly in our UI. So let's get started on this. The first thing we need to do is start importing the packages we're going to use. So we're going to import OS. We're going to import OpenAI. And then we're also going to import request. So that's the three packages that we're going to use. We'll install those in just a moment, but we've got to make sure we import those in our code. So those are good to go. So the next thing we want to do is we want to pull in our environment variables. So we're going to hard code everything in this except for our API credentials. So for our API credentials, we're going to set them as an environment variable just so they're not just sitting in a code block inside of Shipyard. So to do that, we can do API credentials is equal to, we have this code block that's an os.environment.get. So I'm going to grab that and put it in there. So what that's going to do is it's going to go grab that environment variable that we'll set in just a moment and get that API credential for us. So that's like I said, that's the only thing that we're going to set as an variable. Everything else will be hard coded. If you want to make this for yourself and make it be more variable so that you can put more variables in and change a few things up as you're running it, you can do that. But we're going to keep it pretty hard coded for this example here. So there's our API credential. So the next part, I'm going to grab this code block here. I'm not going to hard code all of this just because that would take a little bit too long and be a little bit boring. So I'm going to copy and paste and talk through blocks of code. So this is the API call to OpenAI. So you can see that we have this OpenAI image.create. So that's going to create an image for us. They also have an editing image option. So we have a prompt. So the prompt that I'm going to send this time is Wally meeting Eve. So just to play on words because we had Dall-E, we're going to do something with Wally. So that's the prompt that the AI is going to create an image off of. The N is the number of photos you want it to create. So we're just going to keep it 2 here to keep it simple. And then size of photos, they have limits on the size, but I'm just going to keep it 1024 by 1024 there. So that's going to go to their API and grab that image. So the next thing we want to do is we want to put those images into a list that we can loop through. So there's our URL list. So the way that it's going to send back the photos, it doesn't actually send back the photos using their API. It sends back a URL that has the image on it that then you can go and download it from that URL. So what I'm doing here is I'm looping through their structure they send back, and I'm grabbing those URLs. I'm going to put them in a list that we can loop through in just a moment and download. So that's what we're doing there. So the next block of code is just going to go to that URL and download it and save it as a PNG file. So let's do that here. And so you can see the first part of this code is photo topic. So the photo topic is Wally. And so the reason that photo topic is set, you can see here. So we're going to name these files, whatever that photo topic is. So Wally _ the index. So as it's looping through, we'll have Wally _0 and we'll have Wally _1.png. So that it'll just continually loop through there. You know, you can set this up to have some different names, but just to keep it simple for this example, we're just going to have Wally _0 and Wally _1. Then you can see we have a pretty simple request call there to go grab that image from that URL and then download it to that destination name that we set here with the chunk size and everything there. So that's all the Python code we need to go towards their API. To grab the photos and then download them using request. So our code's good to go. So now what we need to do is we need to scroll down here and look at our environment variables. So if you remember, we set our API credentials up here at the top using an environment variable. So we need to make sure that we add that in. So name API credentials. And then I'm going to grab my API key from over here. If I can copy and paste, there we go. And then paste it in there. And you can see Shipyard automatically hots that for you. so that no one can come in and look at that. And once I save it, they won't be able to come in and click and view that either until they import something else in. So that's good there. So that's our environment variable, API credentials. So we can close that off. And so the next thing we need to do is we need to install our Python packages. So Shipyard by default installs certain Python packages. So OS and request are installed by default inside of Shipyard. So what we need to do, though, is we still need to grab that OpenAI package. So OpenAI there, you can be specific with what version you want, but we're okay with the latest version that they have because that's what's going to have Dall-E in it anyway. So we can close that. You can set up notifications and guardrails as well, but just for this example, we don't need to get that complex with that. So again, this vessel is going to go to Dall-E, get those URLs, and then going to download those photos from the URL. But now we need to send those photos somewhere, so we're going to send them through email. So what we're going to do here is click on Add Vessels. And then we can search for our email vessels and then send message with file. I'm going to click that. And so whenever you click that inside of Shipyard, if this is your first time using Shipyard, we have a sample email address in there for you. So you don't have to actually do anything with your email address on the first time. If you just want to play with this and test it, you can leave it there. So I'm going to name this email photos from Dall-E. There we go. So the host is smtp.gmail, port 587. Username and password leave the same. And I'm gonna send this to myself with a subject line, photos from Dall-E, and then here are your photos! Exclamation mark. We want to do a regex match because again, these are going to be names Wally_0.png and then Wally_1.png. So what we can do here is we can do a .star.png. So that's going to grab everything with a file extension of PNG, which will just be those two files, and then email that to us. So what we can do now is connect those together. This is set up well. So we can, and then the last thing we want to do before we save and finish and run this thing and look at the results is we want to name our fleet. So we'll name this OpenAI Dall-E to email. Okay, so that looks good. So we can click save and finish here. So I'm going to click save and finish. This is going to take us to a page telling us that the fleet has been created successfully, as you see here. And now I can click run your fleet, which is going to kick off an on-demand run inside of Shipyard. So as this takes us over to the fleet log page to monitor what's happening inside of our fleet, I want to point out a few features of Shipyard. We have a triggers tab here. Where you can kick off a scheduling trigger, so you can schedule when your fleet's going to run. And then we also have an API trigger where you can programmatically kick off these fleet runs in other software or any other coding environments. We also have version control, so anytime that you change your fleet, whether that's updating that prompt that you sent to Dall-E or anything else, it's going to take that down in the version control. So every time that you save a new version, it's going to save for you. You can compare and contrast different versions as well as revert back to older versions as well. So you can see inside of our fleet log, this first vessel is already started and already finished. So we've already got those photos, those URLs from Dall-E, and then downloaded those photos using request. And then that's going to kick off our email vessel, which is already finished now too. If I click into that, you can see everything that we set before, including the password being hidden. So if you use your own email address and don't want people to see your password in the logs, you can see it's hidden. You can see that it found two file matches here. So we have Wally_0.png and then Wally_1.png, just like we wanted it to be set. You can see that it attached those two photos to a message, and that message was successfully sent to my email address. So I can pop that up, close that, and it should send in just a moment. Email with attachments can always be a little funky. So I'm going to give that just a moment to arrive, and then we'll check out those photos. So you can see our email to Gmail finally came through. Gmail is having a bit of a slow day for us, but you can see that it came from shipyardapptest@gmail.com with the subject line photos from Dall-E that we said earlier, and then our message, here are your photos. And so you can scroll down and look and see what those photos are. So you can see here's our first photo of Wally meeting Eve, and then you can see here's our second photo of Wally meeting Eve. Again, Eve is not really represented in either one of these photos, but again, that's part of the joy of using Dall-E, is you never really know exactly what it's going to send over to you. So in this video, we discussed how you can use a Python vessel inside of Shipyard to access Dall-E's API and then send those photos that you generate over to yourself in email. If you have any questions about this solution or how you can use Shipyard in your organization, use the link in the description to set up a time to chat with our team of data experts. If you want to see more tutorials like this one, check out these related videos.